Good afternoon, everybody. This is George Lilly. Welcome to the VA PALS Working Group. Linda Ya is away today, and so I'll be hosting the meeting. It's being recorded so that people can listen to it later. So for today's agenda, I wanted to open it up to anybody who would like to, who has anything to show, and if not, anyone else, I will show the latest, some of the latest developments in the VA PALS forms, especially the follow-up form. Okay. So then, can you all hear me? Artis, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Hi, Joel.
Hello.
And Rick, you can hear me too? Good. Good. Excellent. Rick, you have anything you wanted to tell the group?
No. Please carry on. Looking forward to seeing what you have to show.
Okay, great. All right. I'm going to share my screen. And show this is our VA PALS homepage. We'll search for, let's search for a patient. It exists already. And we get this patient has no follow-up forms. And 2 of the forms are incomplete. That would not happen in the real world. But let's say the CT evaluation was complete. Let's say there was a follow-up that was due to be done. So what we do is we press New Form. We come over to our New Form page. And now instead of just CT evaluation, you also have the option of selecting a follow-up form. And you press Create Form. And here we are on the follow-up form. And we can give it today's date. The baseline CT, we may be able to fill in from another form if it had been filled in there. So the ones in these samples have not been completed, but we can look at perhaps pre-filling this if we know what the baseline CT was. So the last CT evaluation, so that might be the last, we might pre-fill it with the last CT evaluation. So let's see, was it ordered for this patient? No. Let's see. Okay, ordering information is only required for Medicare, Medicaid patients. Okay, so we can go past that. Have you taken? So let's go low. I'm going to the ones that are red right now. Have you been hospitalized in the past year? No. Diagnosis of cancer? No. Lung cancer if you had surgery? No. You notice we've got this on the screen. We have a, it's a required value because it's red, and you have when you select it, you get this affirmation that you've answered the question with a green check. Smoking. Have you smoked even a puff of cigarettes? No. Since your prior CT scan, have you ever tried to quit smoking? Yes. How many times have you quit smoking in the last 24 hours? Oh, goodness. Well, why don't we see if we can't submit this?
That doesn't sound right. How many times have you tried to quit in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, I think that's pretty, that's kind of, well, maybe people quit that often.
He misread it. It's how many times have you tried to quit for at least 24 hours? In other words, how many times have you successfully held off for smoking for 24 hours?
I see. I'm sorry. I'll go back down and read that again. So we have to fill in the coordinator. Oh, we have to fill in. I press submit, so now there's things we have to put here. Information to be copied. We apparently need to enter some clinical information here about the CT scan that was not ordered. I don't know what that is. Okay, have you taken antibiotics since your last CT scan? No. Is this an annual? No. I think maybe these things, if I press no, there was no CT scan ordered, I shouldn't be getting these required fields. In which year did you have a prolonged exposure? More than 10 years ago. All right, so let's see if I can submit this now. Ooh. Oh, smoking cessation materials were distributed to the subject. No. I'm going to read this again. How many times have you quit smoking for at least 24 hours? You're right, Kathy. It's so let's do this. Ah, it was submitted. And there are the values that were sent to the server. And what we can do is now look at the original LCAP form and pre-filled with the values that were just saved. We submitted them and we got them saved. And we did a no here. And the clinical information didn't get restored properly. Let's see what else. Let's see. I don't think I answered no to those things. I answered more than 10 years. That got restored. I don't think any of those questions were answered. Have you been hospitalized? Diagnosis of cancer, lung cancer screening, and smoking. No. Yes, I said yes, but I didn't answer that. So far, except for the clinical information. And then here now we've got this this health survey, which we don't have on our forms. At least it's going to be optional, I think. Is this no? This is this the copyrighted health survey information?
Yeah.
Ricardo, is it? This is it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
That's the SF.
Thanks,
yeah, that's the SF12.
SF12. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so we don't have it. It's on the LCAP forms, but we don't have it on our forms. So that's good. So now what we want to do.
Well, actually, the goal here is to have it be an option, so that I guess
right.
in consideration.
Now would it be an option in the file? I know it's an option in the what do you call it? Intake? No. I forget whether it was background. It was background.
The
background
SF, yeah,
form.
the SF12 questions appear on the background and the follow-up form.
And
so
the follow-up.
Yeah, so ideally if we have a parameter, we'd want it to apply to both of those forms.
Oh, okay. So that'll be good. I'll talk to, I know Dom and I have talked a little bit about that. We're thinking of, he's thinking of creating a parameter, a variable for me in the JavaScript that if I set it, it'll make the forms appear, or those questions appear. So we've worked out a way of doing it. I don't know that we haven't executed that yet. So one of the things we could do is try to submit here, and indeed all the answers that we gave on the previous form also allowed us to submit on the original LCAP forms. So there was no edits that were completion problems.
On the prior discussion about SF12, we may have to look out for any license information. I don't know if there's any requirement. It might not be so simple as just turn it on or turn it off.
Oh, okay.
So I'll check with Mount Sinai to see what they know about that. If you have to post some information about your license, that might be a place. Might be needed. So just keep that in mind when we go to implement that.
You know, and honestly, you may want to have two sets of forms, one with the questions in and one with the questions out.
Yeah.
And you know, that way, you know, because if you have it with the variable and the questions are still there in the HTML, someone could look at them. You know, they could look at the source of the HTML and see the questions.
Yeah.
So that might be a risk. Yeah. So you may want to have just two sets of forms of the background form and the follow-up form, just two, one with the questions in, one with the questions out.
Right.
And,
all right. Well.
Yeah, I'm glad we talked about that. Yeah. So you notice now the follow-up form has been marked, you know, is not incomplete. It was before. So, and I guess I didn't show that. Right, maybe I did, but let's show it again. So there's no follow-up form here. If we add a follow-up form, and we don't, and we just go back to case review, we'll notice that the follow-up form is marked as incomplete. And we say, oops, I'm not doing a follow-up for this patient right now. I created that form by mistake. Well, then you can come in, as long as it's incomplete, you can delete the form, and it's gone. That's the new functionality. Any questions about that? Let's go back. What was it? I think it was 2 we did before. Yeah, there's a follow-up form. Yeah, it looks like we've everything that we answered is. Now that's interesting. Now this. When I type this in, that's interesting. Okay. Oh, I submitted from the LCAP form, and it populated this variable with the word follow-up. So we're going to have to look at that to see where that information comes from, because that's not what I typed in when I filled in this form. Arted, what is this clinical information used for? Do you know?
So it's any information we get from the doctor goes in there. So, you know, if, for example, if the patient was coming back for an exam, or if they have some other ailments, I guess. But generally, we just put the something like, you know, lung cancer screening, asymptomatic, you know, age is 55 with 30-pack years of smoking or something like that.
Oh, so you actually do type something in on each one of these?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's required here at Mount Sinai, and I think from most of the...
I just had, it was required on this form too. I just had to type something in.
Right, and I think it kind of goes at the top of the CT report, the whatever clinical information is provided. So.
I see. And the nice thing about these, I mean, it's you can open. Cool. I think. Never mind. This is just resizing. Anyway. All right. And then let's submit that and see what happens. Okay, so I got it there. Let's just go back and see if it restores that way, without confusing using the original form. Yes, it did. Okay. All right, that is what I had planned to show today. Are there other questions or things people would like to talk about?
I have one, George. Oh, go ahead. Somebody else was talking.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have one. Since we have Ardit on the line, I kind of want to take advantage of that.
Good.
George, would you do me a favor and bring up an intake form? And if you look down after note, it says notes and correspondence, and there's a gray box. And if you click on Add Correspondence, you get a little pop-up form that allows you to put in, some sort of communication that you've had with the patient or with the physician. Go ahead and close that. We don't need to fill it out.
Oh.
Sorry. And so you can do that there, but all of the other information about patient contact is all the way down at the bottom of the form. So George, could you scroll down? So this stuff about the numbers of phone calls and the numbers of letters is all the way down on the bottom. And I was just wondering, Ardit, is there a reason that those are sort of geographically separated like that?
So those phone calls, so that phone call and letters options, we use them exclusively for when we're trying to follow up with the patient and trying to get them to come back in for their next appointment. So what we do here is, I think it's about 3 months before their appointment, maybe to 2 months or something, but some amount of time before their appointment, we'll send them a letter to get them, saying, oh, your appointment is due, in July 1st. Call us to make an appointment. So we'll send them a couple of letters, and that's what those buttons are there to record which letter we sent out. Then if they haven't scheduled an appointment, then we'll start calling them to, try to get them to come back. And then the number of times we call them just for the purpose of getting them to come back in, we would fill in there. Because what happens is once it reaches the X, then we do something special for that patient. So at that point, they haven't responded to 3 letters, they haven't responded to 3 phone calls. So then at that point, we have to do something different, whether it's marking the patient as that they're never coming back, or trying to reach out to them in some other way, like maybe we have to go track down their contact information from their primary care physician, etc. So that's what it's used for, and that's why it's kind of separated from the other notes and correspondence, because it's kind of a different, a very specific use of, very specific purpose for those.
Okay, so this stuff down at the bottom is attempts to schedule a follow-up.
Yes.
Okay, and the one up above is, reporting results and other kinds of correspondence.
Right. So, like if they were to call for any reason, or if we were to call them for any reason, every time you make a call, or every time you talk to the patient recorded there.
Okay, so even if you're calling them to try to schedule a follow-up, it also gets an entry up here under notes and correspondence.
Yes, it would.
Okay. So so like lab results or you know, results of the CT evaluation would just go up under the notes and correspondence, but a phone call to try to reschedule would go both places.
Right. And
Okay.
as you see, when you click it, it updates the box for you.
Yeah. Okay. And then another question. Sorry. So the total number of letters and phone calls is for each instance, right? So for example, in 2017, if it took you 2 letters and a phone call to get the patient to come in, then this year for 2018, you start all over with 1, right?
Right. And well, right now we have to manually reset that counter back to 0 after they come in, but yes.
So
Okay.
manually meaning someone goes into this form and clicks on the 0?
Right. So I mean, like when the patient finally gets scheduled, the coordinator is supposed to 0 those out.
Okay. But it's under their control. It's
Yes.
under control of the coordinator.
Right.
Right.
And you know, at one point we used to send them kind of more. For example, for the letters, we would kind of send them more strongly worded letters each time, but we've kind of stopped doing that. So in other words, the reason why we record them separately is because letter 1 would be kind of a gentle reminder. Number 2 would be a little bit more strongly worded reminder, and then the third one would kind of be even more strongly worded. And then I think for like after the 3rd letter, we would start sending them certified mail and things like that.
Okay. Thank you, Ardit. This has been really, really helpful.
Sure.
So I had a question for you, George.
Yeah, Rick.
I sent out the stuff that Ardit and Claudia sent with the new intervention form.
Right.
Have you had a chance to look at that? Any questions, concerns?
Yeah, at this point, I don't have any questions or concerns. That's Dom is working on that form, right?
Well, yeah, he's out this week, but when he returns.
Yeah, I don't. So far, I don't have any. If you want, I'll look at it more carefully today again to see if there's anything I can find that I don't understand. But it looked reasonable to me.
Sure. Ardit, can you give a sense of how much shorter the new intervention form is compared to the old intervention form, or is it about the same, just different questions?
It's about the same. It's not significantly different.
Okay. It's updated for the new staging guidelines and other things, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed reorganized and better or something, but it didn't look that dramatically different from the original one.
Right. Okay.
But the devil's in the details, right? So when Dom gets back and we start working on it, we're gonna, we'll understand more.
Right. Okay. Super. That's all I had.
Okay, cool. So if anybody else, unless anybody else has something else, I think I'm going to give you a half hour of your day back.
Very kind of you, George. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Okay. Thank you everybody for coming, and see you again next week.
Yep.
Thanks, George.
Thank you. Bye.